You doing today?
I'm doing good.
Welcome, class.
How you
Good,
doing?
good, good. Busy day, man. It's a good busy day. Class, how you all doing today?
Been
Why
good.
Oh,
class?
good.
Sure,
Good,
go.
yeah, good. Somebody responded. That must be, is that Kellen? Kellen
Yeah,
did
yeah, that's
respond.
me.
Yeah, good, man. I'm glad. I know Benjamin did talk to me earlier, so I mean, Ben works for us, so he talks to me all the time. All right,
Maybe
so folks,
sometimes too much.
sometimes too much, no, I'll give you hell, man. So you're like my kid anyway. You've gone through years with me, I guess. I don't know, 3 years now, maybe, give and take. You
Yeah,
you've
sounds
been in
about
the
right.
yeah, you've been in the journey with me since I've known you. All right, appreciate that. All right, folks, we have Corey today, so we're going to be talking a lot about tokenization, right? What is tokenization and how it's impacted the industry? What's the benefits of using tokenization? So we will make this conversation as seamless as possible, but we're not going to take much time today, so I don't want to take much of your time, right? So we'll just
Yeah.
start off with Corey. Corey, go ahead. You have the floor, and feel free
Uh,
to jump in, folks. Ask questions as you need it. All right.
I
Go
think
ahead,
this way
Corey.
we'll handle it because
Yep.
I was imagining this being more an informal talk. We've talked in the past about tokenization, about how
Yes.
it worked with payment processing, what it is. The funny thing is when I saw the topic, I was like, okay, what would you like to discuss today? So I went ahead and looked up the topic again just to see, what's changed, what's going on in tokenization.
Hmm.
And
So
the funniest thing is it seems like it's been picked up by the rest of the payment world.
that's true, right? In a sense, so you got the merge of you. Do you think you could start using that with stable coins, or But I'm sure these kids, I mean, sorry, not this kid, these guys would like to know about what is tokenization, right, and what does it
Yeah,
entail. The other
I
class
would like
was
to
last
hear.
semester, right? Yeah,
I would
but
like
I
to
would
hear if
like
the
to.
class has any like if they've heard the topic of tokenization or how they've heard of it. If they've heard of it being applied to stable coins or to blockchain in general.
All right, so class, what's your take on tokenization? Let's ask the class.
Yeah, I can respond if that's
Go
okay.
ahead, Kellen. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, as of late, tokenization has been pretty much a mainstream term within crypto and blockchain, specifically relates to like real world assets, like basically tokenizing physical assets onto the blockchain. But then there's also like the tokenization that comes from just your standard digital payments, which is like
Hmm.
more traditional. So I think it's a little bit it can be confusing now because the terms are being thrown around, but they have
Right.
like very different contexts depending on um, what you're talking about. Because yeah, tokenization on the security side is very different than tokenizing an asset, um, at least from how I understand it.
No, that's exactly where I wanted to get to, and I'm glad that was the first question or the first comment on it, because that's the context I was saying when I was doing research today. Is that there's a lot more talk about taking real world assets, or I shouldn't say physical assets, but stuff like stocks and bonds, and actually tokenizing them via blockchain to do transmissions throughout the world. So it's interesting because tokenization, the way that I talked about in the past, or the way that it's used in the payment industry up till now, has been very specific. It was for the encrypting and transmission of payment account data. So while we talk about stuff like for in the credit card world, Visa token system, Mastercard digital enablement, or it makes more sense when I say like Apple Pay, Google Pay, Samsung Pay. Those, while they're mobile apps, really what they are doing is implementing a tokenization system to send your credit card data throughout the entire mobile world, whether it's the internet or via mobile channels, etc. But it's way more interesting now to see that stuff like stocks and bonds, financial contracts, mortgages, even real estate transactions are now the focus for tokenization because it's something that we've talked about with stable coins, with just blockchain in general, using that for transmission of that data. And now that's the context they're talking about when they say tokenization. Um, so that seems pretty interesting to me, Nick. That's where a lot of these systems will go, and it makes me wonder if systems that were built for credit card tokenization, such as Visa token system, will be used for transmission of that contract data.
Mhm. So let's talk about prior to the fundamentals, right? Why was token created? Okay, so back in the day, so we talked about fraud and stuff. So
Right.
to me, when we did this, right? So the easier way to sum it is, okay, so for example, you guys got credit cards, right? I mean, every single one of you probably got one or two or three, which I don't. So just let y'all know that. But so for example, if a card's compromised, so what do you do? What happens when your card's compromised, folks? Just basic question. What do y'all do normally? If you say, okay,
Contact support.
contact support, okay,
Yeah. Contact the bank and let
contact
them
the
know
bank,
that my
all
card
right.
has been hacked or somebody has gotten my information.
Okay, got it. All right. So then
They cancel.
think about your card's been linked to everybody and their uncle, correct? So you got Starbucks, you got Target, you have to call all these people, right? It just isn't it a hot mess just to get all of everybody? Think about that.
Not only that, but back in the
Yeah.
day, it used to be like with, for instance, you didn't really have to worry about that with checking accounts.
Yeah.
Yes, someone might steal a checking account micro number or something like that,
Hmm.
but this was the days before electronic ACH, where everything was connected online. People using that number quite a lot.
Yeah.
So check
But
kiting was more the issue.
hmm
But when e-commerce really came in, or even more so mobile purchases. So, like I was saying before, Apple Pay,
hmm
Google Pay, and such like that. When people start using their credit cards online more to actually pay bills, to pay the electric company, to go ahead,
yes.
and those were things that just 25 years ago people weren't doing. That wasn't consumer, like the normal consumer way of paying anything.
Hmm.
So that meant there was a whole lot more linkages,
Exactly.
which, if your card got stolen, extremely inconvenient, not just for the consumer to go to every single one of those sites and stop it, but from
Hmm.
their issuer, believe it or not, on the back end to stop purchases still.
Yeah. But that's just think about Netflix, right? Everything is
Yep,
tied into like all your apps, your Netflix, your Amazon. Guys, it's unbelievable what you have to do. But in a sense of token, right? I mean, when you do tokenization, so each app is given a token, correct? So
exactly. It's
so what happens
the
if it's yeah, if say your Starbucks is compromised, if somebody can mute back that, I think it's Priyanka. I'm hearing background noise from your side. So if you could mute it, please. Thank you. So if your Starbucks is compromised, guess what? All you have to do is notify Amex, so sorry, MasterCard, and say, hey, my Starbucks is compromised. Therefore, guess what? Everybody else is fine. All you have to do is change the token for one app. Does that make sense, guys? I mean, instead of you notifying everybody, so the problem is just solved at one point, right?
and it
Correct,
solves
Corey?
for
Exactly.
multiple ways of fraud or criminal activity. For instance, if my
Exactly.
phone is stolen, the token that's within that, even if you unlock the phone, the token that's within the phone can easily be canceled, and that way you never affect the actual card primary account number, the PAN.
Hmm.
So yeah, its tokenization has been extremely important for the security and the payment processing system. Even next year, Visa is creating a new, what they call the interchange category, where you pay for the network fees. Well, they're creating a new category specifically for e-commerce where if you do two different things, then you get a much better interchange rate. One of them is 3DS authentication. That's where you're making sure the customer is the customer. The
Mhm.
other one is tokenization. If the merchant participates in Visa's tokenization program, they'll get a better interchange rate. So this has been one of their primary ways of securing their network. Even with passkeys, FIDO passkeys, that's one of the things that they're going to be utilizing now on their system for tokens. So it's something where in the payment system, they've seen the utility of it for the last 2 decades. It's just a matter of they've seen it for credit card information, not
Mhm.
for more detailed contractual information.
All right. Does that make sense, class? What we talked about? Any questions on that?
I have a question about so like quantum computing when it comes to like tokenization. Like, would that be more of like a risk towards tokenization or more like an asset? Um, I
When
guess
you
like a,
say like quantum computing for tokenization, is it more of a like applying quantum computing?
yeah, yeah,
Well, it's a security risk that I would say, just in the fact that you're talking about quantum computing, it's not a security risk that most of the industry would be worrying about. It does come up when you start talking about specifically security trading, stocks and bonds. That's where you would get into groups going ahead and trying to build quantum computing models in order to go ahead and break the encryption and see what's in those. But we're talking high scale at that point. Whereas the worry really is going to be later on when we start doing, I would imagine, transmission of medical code and also for things like real estate, but quite honestly, more medical billing. If they can figure out tokenization and standardization of any type of transmission, then that's where I'd be worried about someone trying to develop a quantum model to break the encryption. But actually, that's a really good question because it's one of those things where in regular credit card processing, we never had to worry about that. It's such a low margin hack to go ahead and try to break tokenization that it's something where they really haven't worried about that in the credit card industry for a long time. But yeah, it'll be a thing for stocks and bonds. That's
All
actually
right.
a really good one. What's the next question?
Kellen had a question.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Corey, I've also heard with tokenization at like the transaction level, like for example, when you go to pay with something like with Apple Pay and you're using basically the tap to pay, that it's essentially creating like a unique token at the transaction level that basically you know expires, or once the transaction is complete, like that unique number goes away. Is that also part of the same conversation with tokenization and security?
Good question. That's something that's been going on for years actually. With credit card tokenization, it hasn't been as dynamic as that sounds. Usually for every primary account number, there's various, like I would say, usually 4 or 5 different tokens that are in play, depending on how many subscriptions the average consumer has. And those tokens are pretty much, once they're created, they're out there for the merchant. They go ahead and use the same token. They don't really change it up that much. Um, Even if it's a device token, one that links back to your phone, for instance. The key is that when something does occur, like if a phone is lost or a card is lost or stolen, or if the credit card number that was the token is compromised, like on a Netflix or something, then they have the ability with tokens to just clear that one and quickly move on to another one. So that's really when the change occurs. There's even systems that are called account updaters with Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover, as well as some of the debit networks with their own card numbers. And when a lost or stolen or compromised card occurs, those account updater services, it used to be only every 24 hours, but now it's even real time, sending new information to the merchants who participate. They get their new token, they update it on the fly, and you don't have to do anything. If you have a bank that participates, you might also, when you go ahead and report your car lost or stolen, you might even get a text to your bank app. I believe Capital One participates, where some merchants automatically get that update and they get it at the time that you report your car lost or stolen. So it's not necessarily dynamic. The networks are getting to that point. They've even planned for cards that do not show a card number on the card at all. It just has a dynamic number that changes every couple of minutes. They've had that in the past, but they're still not there yet with that level of dynamic use of the card number. They want to get to that point. They want to get to the point where no one cares about a card number. I can even say that there are, as public knowledge, so it's not like it's crazy confidential. It's more minutia. There's something called the primary account reference number, a PAR, that links all these different tokens and card numbers together through every single transaction. The difference with a PAR is I can't do a financial transaction, so I can't initiate a transaction. It's just simply for me to do my own data mining and figure out, okay, how many different places is this card being used at? It works great for a network, not necessarily for a network, but for a larger acquirer like Fiserv that has so many merchants that it's worth it to go ahead and do a PAR search, see if a card is being used fraudulently everywhere through the use of different tokens. So, hopefully I didn't go off on too much of a tangent, but yeah, the use of multiple card numbers is actually a pretty big thing in payment processing tokenization.
Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks a lot. That's really interesting, actually.
And it's
Any other questions?
I was just gonna say it seems like that wouldn't be a big deal, like, the use of well, I would say it seems like it'd be a dry topic. How many cards link back to one token, but that's actually been something that, as you heard, even up till now, we've been trying to get to a point where we can have even a financial reference number, but that's just too much of a risk.
I see. Okay, yeah, thank you.
All right. So, Corey, we described the fundamentals, right? So, what about what's coming up next? Where do you see tokenization evolving to?
Well, in the payments industry, like I said, trying to use it multi-factor with actual authentication. Trying to really tie those two things together when it's a card not present transaction. We've gotten much further with authentication. As you know, tokenization has always been what they call a value add, something that you can encourage merchants to do for a security factor of it when you're an online merchant. But it's been more niche than anything. Even when card not present has taken over from actual physical transactions. I think now with just how much card not present is being done, in particular card not present from electronic devices, that tokenization is going mainstream, even for just your mom and pop shops who just happen to have some type of online presence. you're going to see in smaller businesses that target smaller merchants like Square
Hmm.
or Zoom or those types, the ability to go ahead and actually do tokenization via Google Pay, via Samsung Pay. That's the importance of those that we call them just the pays, is that in addition to uh, the merchant saving some money, it provides that security. The biggest thing is that, like I said, right now I wasn't expecting tokenization to become a buzzword like AI, but it has over the last year. And in the future, we're going to start seeing it used at least in the financial market for actual transmission of what you call sale orders and the actual transmission of the financial assets themselves. So it's not necessarily like so much a stable coin as using blockchain principles to transmit these actual financial assets. That is going to mean that we need to see some type of standard worldwide for the transmission of non-financial, like it's not financial like a coin or anything like that, but non-financial contracts. So
Hmm.
the actual shares, the actual stocks, the actual documentation for even selling of real estate or actual assets. That's a big one right there. If it can be done in an encrypted manner for cheap, then we're talking about the replacement of a lot of different processes and structures that have been out there for centuries. Stuff like having to do notarization and such can be done electronically.
Got it. Okay. So, how might regulatory developments or new standards, new industry standards, shape tokenization practices in the future? So, how do you see that?
It's going to have to be industry by industry.
Okay. So,
And that type of regulation is something where you're going to see the industry push more for the regulation, depending on how close they feel the technology is to actually being used,
mhm.
especially
So,
for the economic uses of it.
okay. So, of course, the buzzword now is stable coins, right? I mean, obviously, with the Genius Act. So, how do you see stable coins impacting tokenizations or tokens?
I think it's just another way of saying about blockchain is the stable coin, but it's going to impact in a way of with the government actually, like you said, the Genius Act. This is the most legislation we've seen on the blockchain front in 5 years or so. Um, and this is going from the government working very slowly in like
Hmm.
2022 or so, just asking for comment on even regulation of coins by banks or if banks would want to use them. We've in the last 5 years gone from that to institutional use of them. Um, so with the Genius Act, it just signals that the government at least is participating from a front
Hmm.
of forward-looking regulation. I can't say about the actual criminal enforcement of some of these things,
Hmm.
but they are now looking towards regulation of the actual use of the technology. I
So,
think
Corey,
I think it just needs to be a little bit more looking at the back end of it, but the technology
exactly.
itself is going to be used.
So for right now, so you say MasterCard has got its vault, right? I mean, they got their one, Visa's got their own vault to keep the tokenization. So with stable coins, for example, say Amazon wants to create their stable coin, Walmart. So every Tom, Dick, and Harry out there say like, you know what? I'm going to create stable coins now, right?
Mhm.
So that's where my question is, right? So how is this going to impact tokenization when the whole idea about stable coins is to eliminate guys like Visa and MasterCard, right? From monopolizing the whole or cannibalizing the industry. So where does
It,
token go there, right? I mean, that it's just a question.
no, it's a
it's
good
just
question though, because a lot of times people, that's the first question is like, how? do we go ahead and establish this technology in a safe way when
Yes.
it's so new that there's a lack of government regulation because we haven't even thought of how to regulate it? What's the use cases for regulation? What do we exactly regulate? What type of databases? What type of personal identifiable information would be in play? What wouldn't be in play? So you know that in the credit card industry, that's taken decades of work between participants to go ahead and start establishing that. The fact of the matter is that, for instance, MasterCard is just a scheme that, and I say scheme not in a negative way, that's the technical term for it. It's just a scheme of different banks that work together. Used to be called interbank, became MasterCard, became MasterCharge and MasterCard. Same thing with Visa. I mean, it was originally just Bank of America, but then it became other financial institutions participating. You can say that also for the security aspect of the industry. The Payment Council going ahead and creating PCI DSS. There is EMV, even tokenization standards that are in place for the payment industry were created from hundreds of participants in the industry, not just the major ones. Visa has its own vault. MasterCard has its own vault. So do the other majors, but they all follow a standard, an industry standard. So that's really what needs to happen with blockchain. It's not a problem if you have multiple large groups having their own blockchains and having their own uses, their own use cases. Really, the focus is going to be is on the transmission of things such as personal identifiable information, or what type of information can be sent in those contractual transmissions. And when they get to either end, if it's outside of the country of where origination, are you still going to need those real world items, such as money transfer license? Or are we going to have to build new regulations for the encryption and decryption of items on different continents? That makes a big deal because certain countries, such as India, have very strong data policies about data being transmitted outside their country. And those are things where internationally those have to be resolved. So if we're going to see transmission of assets of contractual information, it's going to take off, but it's probably going to take off at most at a national scale or at a regional scale at first, unless we're talking about highly regulated industries. Those, because of the focus on them and how narrow the use of it is, those will pick up first.
You see, let's take one step back, right, Corey? I mean, yeah, let's remove tokenization from this conversation. We got the whole idea of stable coins is to make sure with merchants are taken care of, right? The whole, less payments, less interchange assessments and stuff. But everybody's going to start creating their own stable coin in a sense, right? So where do you see who's going to be controlling it? Who's going to be managing it, right? Who's going to be assigned to it? Or is this going to be like a cowboy town where you got like hundreds of stable coins out there, right? See, that's what
Yes.
I'm not so sure, correct?
I would say yes, but I would say in a manner of that it's not going to be just the Wild West, because we saw it kind of like that with meme coins and such.
Yes.
But when you come down to it, the coins that are actually functional coins that are actually used, not just for financial transactions, but for blockchains in general, like Ethereum and such, those are utilized because of the planning that goes into them, because of the amount of participants that work towards making those a standard.
So who's going to be the central repository? The question, that's what it's going to be, correct? Is the government going to control it? If the government controls it, think about.
As far as no, it won't be government control.
Okay,
just
so
simply
then
because
question is,
yeah,
how many blockchains are you going to have out there for verification and validation? That's
at
another
first you're
question.
going to have quite a lot.
Exactly.
But it's going to narrow down just by how many people participate, by the usability of the actual like blockchain technology, if it's versatile enough. And then the part that you're saying government won't, just point blank, the government doesn't want to own a technology or even the network that it transmits. Remember, I mean, for instance, the internet, the World Wide Web, all these things, they originate as a government project, but the government didn't keep hold of just a solitary network. It's a web of networks that connect together and use one protocol. So it's the same thing in the financial world. The government always has had the ability to own stuff like, ACH, the clearinghouse for checks,
Yes.
and later on, or, with Visa or MasterCard. Not only is we're a capitalist free market society, not only is it not profitable, it stifles innovation. They don't want to own it. They want to regulate it as little as possible, but there are going to be regulations because unfortunately we're going to see pain with things being stolen or, networks being compromised.
See, that
That's the
should
way
be
these things
oversight,
get
right?
developed.
There
Yeah.
should be oversight, Corey. I mean, honestly, if you get like 100 guys running around creating their own stable coins, then you're gonna have a major problem, right?
It's
Then,
why I like to encourage the students for courses like this to really think about compliance and think about vulnerabilities, and then bring it up in their projects when talking about it, because while it's inconvenient and a lot of times people just wonder why we mention vulnerabilities during planning, they don't want to invest more into it because it's not revenue generating. This is where the regulation comes from. This is where, when you participate in these councils and you discuss, different ways that you're solving for vulnerabilities or what should be implemented into the standard, for instance, FIDO, the amount of work that went into developing that standard, to not only be used just for payments, but also for other securities within browsers. That's the way that regulation will come. So I would love it if the government simply paid for, a technical school to sit back and think about, all the different ways to do regulation on stuff like this. But unfortunately, it comes with a little bit of pain usually.
okay. All right. Class, I'm gonna open it up for y'all for questions. Did we throw y'all off track, guys? Is that what it is? Come on, feel free to ask questions. Thoughts.
Hey Corey, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
I had a question about so what are the cost challenges or cost and challenges of tokenization?
I can't say the cost part, although I will say that, like I said before, in general, the biggest thing about cost is when you're talking about something like tokenization or security in general. The general thought by accounting and executives is that it's not revenue generating. That unless you're talking about a new solution, like that's the reason why stocks and bonds suddenly are such a hot topic, is because it can be revenue generating for that. If you can do transmissions securely, authenticated transmissions of actual stocks and bonds, changing them from physical to blockchain and back and such, then that's great. But in most cases, it's talking about, if it's not saving time, especially in those contractual matters, then it's not revenue generating. At that point, it's, hey, let's send this in a more secure way. That's the biggest reason that these things haven't taken off. Also, complex transactions. Nick, you could tell tell anybody about just how much the payment industry has been wanting to do medical billing for the last 2 decades.
Yes.
And the reason why is simply because those transactions are so complex. when you go to the doctor, it's not like it's just a simple billing. They send the actual medical codes. They have to be allowed by your particular insurance plan, even if it's allowed. They have to go ahead and authorize it per customer, and that might take several different interactions with the same doctor, with the same medical insurance group. So medical billing has just been this white whale for payment processing to do at scale, and they haven't been able to get to it. It's things like tokenization, especially tokenization and blockchain, could be the use case that actually gets the payment industry in there, but it still needs to be regulated. It still needs to abide by current, like, HIPAA laws and such, and a network that can handle the throughput and all the different changes has to be developed. So that's where the biggest it's there's a use case, and I call it like a lottery ticket. Whoever can develop it is going to be a very rich or powerful company, or it will be Oracle. But either way, that's the actual, like, the toughest part about doing something like that.
Good question. Ben, you're quiet.
No, I find it really interesting. Honestly, it kind of reminds me of almost like how we treat the internet, and I like how you brought that up as well, where it's like tokenization similar to and forgive me if I get the concept wrong, but almost like TPS, where it's just like, okay, making sure that the right computers are communicating and all that. But I also, similar to our last conversation with stablecoin, it seems like it's more back of house than it is for any of the consumer side. Like, it's for the consumer, but it's not for the direct use of the consumer. It seems like.
Exactly. You like when you look historically at technologies, even for, like I said, for the microsystem, the biggest use of it was at an enterprise level. Consumers eventually get this type of technology. I mean, that's the reason that Micro's got on the checks, but Micro's been around much longer, and it was for transmitting information between the actual financial institutions. So that enterprise usage is what we really should focus on, as where the use case will make its big break. I would like to focus more on a consumer and figure out how blockchain can be used for them, but quite honestly, it's going to be at scale, and it's going to make a much bigger difference in those back end transmissions. Heck, especially at a government level, that probably is going to be a very big change. And I don't mean government as in conspiracy or something weird. I mean government as in like the IRS using it, for instance.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. Yeah.
Good question. Anybody else?
Yeah, Nick, I'll just say one last thing. I was thinking about what you were saying regarding these enterprises creating their own stable coins. And something I thought about is the fact that most of the stable coins are actually, backed by US debt, like these like short-term like treasury bonds. So it's like,
Right.
in a sense, like the government is almost like creating a new revenue stream, in a sense that the more stable coins that are created, they're basically for the most part being financed with government debt. I do think that at some point it will consolidate. There's not going to be like 1,000 different stable coins, but I think at least in the next couple of years, like it's becoming a huge kind of revenue source in the sense like that these stable coins have to be backed by real
By a
assets,
fiat
like they're not.
currency.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fiat
Yeah,
currency, definitely.
fiat currencies. Yeah,
it
because they're
makes
not.
sense because you can't really create a fiat currency in the end. Like you need a government size entity in order not just to create the currency, the fiat part, but to get whatever the amount of materials needed in order to back it, and then to also go ahead and be stable. That's not just securing the assets, but also being stable enough to say, hey, we're not just going to suddenly fall apart and all these assets go to the wind or get tied up in any type of conflict. So it really is something where that's a very good point, is that all these things are going to be tied to a fiat currency. For the United States, that's great, because that means that it long term, even if these become more popular for all types of financial transactions, the fiat currency is still needed.
Well, that'll put the greenback as still the number one currency in the world, right? I mean, if you look at it,
Yeah.
if you can do that. Now, if y'all want to know my personal opinion, I think this is where it's going to go. It's going to head towards the CBDC, the central bank digital currency. I think that's where it's all going to come down to. But if y'all need to know more about CBDC, I wrote a paper on it like 2 years ago. So y'all can go out and pull my name and read up on it, right? I mean, honestly, guys, I mean, that's how I see it going, right? Because there should be a central body, that should be a governing body to manage this whole stable coin, you know?
I think the best way to put it, Nick, is not necessarily centralization as just one coin, but you'll see a lot more focus on centralization of the regulation, so that these different coins can interoperate in some type of viable exchange without,
Corey,
having to worry about what's being transmitted.
well, you can always tie the stable coins back to the CBDC, right? Your central bank digital currency. I mean, why not?
Oh, right.
After all,
That's
it's
true. That's the stable part of it. It would keep it
exactly,
at a pegged rate, and you wouldn't have to worry about value fluctuations too
exactly.
much.
So I think that's where I see it's heading to. Because you think about it, right? China's already got their digital yuan. And of course, it's a communist country, and they regulate, they control. India is working on it. A lot of the countries are going towards the central bank, I mean, digital currencies.
I
So,
think the best way to look at it is, if you really want to look at a historical analog, is the dollar.
yeah.
Even though we call it the dollar, there were, dollars everywhere, not just
hmm
American dollars. Banks, when the United States first started, were able to issue their own paper currency. They were able to go ahead and mint that. There wasn't central banks for a long time, but once you introduce that stability, where there was one greenback,
hmm
one common currency throughout the United States, that actually affected inflation. It affected fluctuations in different markets to the point where you could go ahead and do trading between the states. Interstate commerce was a lot more important a century ago than international currency or commerce.
hmm
So once you introduce that standardization, you go ahead and also have price fluctuations come down. It's not just the stable coin that you want a stable market. And that's
hmm
ultimately what we're hoping for when you say that the central bank coin.
All right. Anybody else? Brandon?
Ben? Hey,
Brandon is
I'm
awfully
here.
quiet today.
No, I am.
Don't make me come knock. Don't make me walk
Yeah,
down there and
I'm
knock on
not
your
there
door.
right now, so you
Okay.
can't come knock.
Well, Brandon lives
Just
two
to,
houses down from me, so I'll go knock on his door and wake him up.
yeah,
Yeah, no. I just more so, how would tokenization and real-time payments happen on a global scale as far as like cross-border payments? Like, how would regulatory stuff be handled?
I mean, surprisingly, it really is based around the use case. It's not too hard because, for instance, like, let's take real estate. Then at that point, what type of transaction is occurring? Because it happens every day today. It's just of the amount of length of time, all the different processes that are done to do these exchanges or real estate transactions with foreign entities. And then you're taking that and you're saying, okay, for each part of it, how do we utilize that in a blockchain technology? What's important? What's the part that is the hardest part to go ahead and do? Is it the transmission of actual documents? Do they have to be authenticated between several different government agencies? Well, how do we do that electronically? So it really is, that's how the regulation is done. You look at the process first, you see what's exactly being done, and then you're going to regulate it. That's the reason why I say specifically for fintech, what you call fintech employees, for people who are payment pros. There we go. Fintech payment pros in the industry, those people who are seeing these things or designing these systems or in the brainstorming part of the system. It's not only, good or ethical or something, it helps your project go much quicker to think, where would regulation impact this project? Why would we think about this when we design this technology? Because that's how the regulation ultimately happens. It happens from comments from the actual people designing these systems, and also who have knowledge of the industry. That's the reason why, unfortunately, sometimes it's much later on in the use of a technology till they see something that's, oh, wow, we should have protected more from this. Man, in the middle attacks when e-commerce first started going up were a huge problem, and it's because no one thought about the security end of it. So yeah, it's the regulation is going to come from the people actually designing the systems and thinking, just like if I design a bank, okay, what type of physical vault do I need? It's the same thing for digitally. You have to think that way.
All right, good question. Any other questions before we close out? Anybody else? All right, I think that's what we have today. Thanks, Corey. I appreciate you taking the time. And tomorrow we were supposed to have a call with Salvador, but apparently he's dropped out. So I will do a recording. I'll post the recording that we had from last semester with the same topic. So y'all can follow and discuss based on that recording. All right. Thank you,
If we
Corey. I
have
appreciate you.
any veterans are on the call, happy Veterans Day. And
Happy Veterans Day to y'all. Yes, absolutely. Thank you for your service. And I will talk to y'all soon. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
thank you, everyone.
Hey, Corey, can you just stay back for a second?
Sure.
So next month we have this meet and greet.
Mhm.
It's going to be on December 8th. I'll send you the invitation. It's like what
Send
we
me the
did last year.
invitation. Yeah, I'll be happy
remember?
to join.
Yeah, just the one that we invited the current students, and also it's like an orientation. Some of the sponsors will be there, advisory board, those kind of
Okay.
folks. Just like a thank you thing, right? Just to get people to come and hang out and meet for a bit.
No, I'll be happy to join.
All right. All right, sir. Keep me posted if you need anything. I'll send your name to Laura.
And I believe I already answered the email, but yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know more about the November 22nd one.
Yeah, Laura will send you the invitation with the tickets, and she'll send you the parking pass and all of that.
For some reason, the other day I was thinking about of all things, not football, but baseball. I've gotten back into watching baseball and stuff, and I was like, Kennesaw probably has a good team.
Yeah, we do. We're pretty ranked up there too. But baseball is it over? It's over, right?
Major League Baseball is over. The World Series is actually pretty good, but yeah.
Yeah.
Braves, even though they weren't great this year, the Battery has been a roaring success financially for them.
Exactly.
So I think they made something like $29 million in profit this year, which is like that's a free agent like at the top of the league. So yeah,
That's
They're
good though.
they're about to start buying again.
Well, they're playing on house money anyway. Everything was paid by the people
No,
of
that's the
Cobb
reason why
County.
they made so much money. It's
Exactly.
like David Sampson. He was like a Marlins GM and such. He has his own radio show, and he was saying, basically every sports executive out there has been trying to do this for 40 years now, and the Braves were the first one to get it right.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's a combination of low taxes, but also the real estate is just actually working at the Battery.
exactly. I do not know how much money the county makes out of that, but they're playing on house money, so basically,
Yeah,
yeah, everything is for free, right? If you look at it.
exactly. That's the deal they wanted from everyone talked about transit or anything. No, the deal they wanted from Atlanta was give us free land around the stadium. And
Yeah.
that's what they got from Cobb basically is free land. It's not just the real estate. It's like you don't even pay taxes on this.
No, they went and bought an office building too, man. They wanted the
Yeah,
parking space and they bought the whole
exactly.
building. Crazy how they do that.
It's a city. It's
Hmm.
a small city that they have the services done by the county and they
Hmm.
don't have to like maintain it. So yeah, I mean, and
Crazy.
quite honestly, I mean, well, I used to get, sanctimonious and everything. Quite honestly, I mean, if it can be successful enough to bring in the revenue,
Hmm.
whatever. Like, as long as but if they get to a point where they're a drain on the county, yeah, it's stupid. Like, if you can't pay for, new police or medical stuff, then it's not worth it. So I don't know how it is in Cobb County if they're having trouble with any type of government functions, but until they do, it was a good plan.
Mm.
That laugh is knowing because that's pretty much what happened in Atlanta. I mean, remember they built a stadium for the Olympics,
Yes,
and ultimately they lost money on the Olympics.
that's crazy, man. But I'm
But
glad they're here though. They did the right thing.
they
Yeah.
did the right thing, and ultimately Atlanta can say they lost money on the Olympics, but also I moved here because of all the business that came from the Olympics.
Exactly. All right, brother. Yeah, you'll be excited. We pretty much the Kennesaw State football team is doing quite well. So
Well, it'd
we
be
lost
good
just to the,
because
yeah.
even the other day when I came out, like it was the first time I really paid attention to the stadium over there. So I was like, okay, well, it'd be cool to go ahead and actually see the football team there.
Yeah, it'll be nice. It's an outdoor suite. It's not an indoor suite. So food will be there and everything else is
As long as they
provided. So
got
it's kind
heaters, I mean, it's cold as hell out there.
yes, they'll have heaters. I'll make sure we request for it.
Yeah, man, come on.
Yeah,
You
we
know why
got it.
people aren't from cold places.
Yeah, we got it, man. I'll take care of it. I'll
All
tell them
right.
to get some heaters. All right, brother. Take care.
Take care. Have a
I'll
good
talk.
night.
You too.